What's going on today, guys? This morning we're going to talk a little bit about some funguses we've been seeing, and specifically the Bermudagrass is what I'm going to talk about, but been seeing some dollar spot in the Bermuda here in the early summer, and it's really manifesting itself into a mess now in the yards that didn't get treated. But we'll talk about it. Stay tuned. What's going on today, guys? We're going to talk a little bit about some of the issues we've been seeing in the warm season grass so far this year. This has not been a very hospitable season for our warm season grasses here in eastern North Carolina. Starting early in the spring for Bermudagrass especially, the weather was real up and down. So this is my yard here. It came out of dormancy, greened up probably 5 times this year and kept getting zapped by the frost before it finally got to take off and go. And then it's been dry, and now it's finally raining, so it looks a little better. But in the centipede, St. Augustine, and zoysia lawns, we saw a lot of what looked to be large patch early in the spring. And in these centipede stands, I mean, we lost whole stands, and getting soil tests on some of those, we had them tested for nematodes, and they came back with over threshold counts, very high counts of sting nematodes in these centipede lawns. Oddly enough, in those yards, if there was any encroaching Bermudagrass or Bermudagrass just patches in the lawn or whatever, the Bermudagrass was unaffected and the centipede was just gone. It was dirt. I don't know if the large patch, the weakened grass, caused the problems with the nematodes, or the nematodes caused the large patch. It's the chicken and the egg controversy, I guess. I don't know, but anyway, we reseeded those with Bermuda and just just turned them into Bermuda yards because the centipede was gone. The zoysia's been really slow coming out of dormancy. It looked like it had been affected by some type of fungus, and so they're just getting back like they ought to be now after, fertilizer regimens and insect spray and everything, just to see if we could get them back. But here it is, second week in July, and the zoysia's finally where it ought to be. The Bermudagrass, though, is what I kind of want to talk about today, because I'm seeing a lot of this out in the field, and even some here in my own home lawn. Dollar spot, and that first started showing up last month to us, early last month, and you'd see little brown spots just throughout the lawn, especially in the hybrid Bermuda lawns, the 419s, and even some of the Tiff Tough yards were showing that dollar spot in there. In the irrigated lawns, it showed, it just stayed looking like those spots, and if you could get some fertilizer on them, in some cases that it would just grow out of it on the irrigated lawns. But it's been so dry on the non-irrigated lawns, it wasn't growing out of it, and it was causing some pretty gnarly damage. You can treat that with most fungicides will knock it right off, and I do recommend fertilizing it at the same time you put the fungicide on it, so it can grow that damage out. Things like tebuconazole and chlorothalonil, even the combination of those is super on it. One hold up, we cannot use those in residential turf. They're not labeled for residential turf. So I do recommend combining 2 different modes of action. Something like propiconazole and azoxystrobin would be a good bet to get it knocked out. And again, like I said, run that fertilizer with it. What we also have seen, and what I've had happen here in my own yard, is it's been so dry that the drought stress masked that early signs of the disease, the little brown spots you'd see, because the turf had dried up kind of dormant spots in it, so it didn't even really show like it usually does. And now that it's rained on it some, the good grass has come back out, and we see the damage from the dollar spot in it. So I'll show you some of that too. Let's look at it. There's some of the damage here. I'm not so sure that it's active anymore. I have not sprayed this yet because it rained all day yesterday, and we're just seeing it all start to pop back out. Sometimes you can see lesions on the grass, but most of the time when I see it, it just dies from the top down. That might be there. That's kind of an example there. But there's some damage, and there's a few other spots in the yard I'll show you. That rain did us a lot of good. I'm telling you, we needed that. But you can see where these spots didn't come back out. And this, the whole yard wasn't brown by any means before it rained on it, but it certainly wasn't this green. But this yard, you know, gets fertilized up pretty regularly. And so it can grow this damage out, but with it not raining on it any, it was not doing a lot of growing. So, but that's what some of that damage looked like. Again, this is that seeded Monaco Bermuda. Anybody interested in that? And this is non-irrigated here, so it just gets it when it gets it. Hangs in pretty tough. Here's another example of some of the damage, and like I said, the damage kind of masked itself when it was so dry, of just being some drought stress. But you can see where the dollar spot was in it as it got watered, you know. Now, and it's after we've had this rain, it's kind of coming back out, and you can see where the damage was. All right, just a lot of babbling, I know, but what I do. But I've seen a lot of it, the brown, you know, where you can see the brown actual dollar spots in the lawns earlier last month and on into July a little bit. And I was able to treat those in the customers' yards and sprayed them with a combination of azoxystrobin and propiconazole and put out a fertilizer, and it cleared it up pretty readily. So, and I've had the problem in the past and just been able to fertilize it out in some cases and get a fungicide on it. But most fungicides will deal with it pretty readily. It will mutate around modes of action pretty quick, so it's good to combine two different modes of action against it so you don't get resistance on it. It's the mailman. Maybe he's bringing me some checks. Anyway. Anyway, I know a lot of babbling, but we've been super dry here, and I think that, you know, you usually think of when you get a lot of rain, you're going to get a fungus, but in the case of this Bermudagrass, I think the stress on it really stepped up its susceptibility to this disease, because the Bermudagrass usually grows so fast, it blows most disease off of it just by growing it off the leaf, you know. A couple things about this dollar spot: it can be spread on equipment, so mowers can spread it, can spread throughout the lawn, so you know, you got to watch out for that. Again, fertilizer with your fungicide, and it'll take care of it in most cases. Nothing really exciting, I know. I mean, here with my company, when we think of fungus, we're generally dealing with Rhizoctonia and tall fescue, and in that case, you're definitely way ahead of the game to get out and be preemptive on that and try to prevent getting that disease. As far as spraying ahead of time, like you would in fescue for brown patch, you know, when you start seeing conditions favorable, start going out and treating a preventative fungicide on all the properties. In the Bermudagrass, you know, for a widespread residential setup, I don't think you would need to go out and preemptively start spraying preventative fungicides on all your Bermuda to keep from getting what we thought dollar spot. You certainly could. I mean, you could get away with lower rates and all that, but you're not going to see it in widespread in all the lawns. Like, you're almost guaranteed to see brown patch in this part of the country in fescue if you don't treat it. With this dollar spot in the Bermuda, not so much. If you had a sports field, golf course, something like that, of course you're going to get out and spray your preventative fungicides. But as far as just residential lawns, me going out and lighting up 100 acres of Bermuda grass with azoxystrobin or something beforehand just to hope to prevent dollar spot, it doesn't make sense. You certainly could in your own lawn though, if that's what you wanted to do. But these diseases can be knocked out of the grass pretty easily once you get them, and you can grow the grass back in. Not as easy, you know, it's harder to stop brown patch in tall fescue once it's in there and have the grass recover because of the nature of how fescue is going to grow in the summer. It's not going to fill up the holes, but the Bermuda grass is ready, willing, and able to run all over the yard this time of year. So if you do have damage and holes in the lawn, a little fertilizer, a little fungicide, you'll grow them back in. Some things to help you prevent this, just like with any other fungus. If you've got an irrigation system, you do not run your irrigation at night, or don't irrigate at night or in the evenings. Irrigate in the morning so the leaf has time to dry off during the day. You don't want to put the turf to bed with wet leaves. That will exacerbate your dollar spot issues. If you've got dollar spot, when you mow, I would bag the clippings and dispose of them somewhere where they won't cause you any problems anywhere in the lawn. And as I said, this stuff can be transported from yard to yard to clean off equipment between mows. There's some of that damage. Anyway, there's your big dollar spot in Bermuda grass talk for the day. If anybody wants to come prune my shrubs, give me a call.